So now we'll go over the first four seal judgments of God here. So we have the first seal that's opened by Christ. Only he was qualified to open this, by the way. As commander-in-chief of all angelic and superhuman forces, I suppose you can call it, the church. Only he is allowed to open this seal. Only he has top secret clearance, if you will. And so he's able to open the seal, and the first seal is that of a white horse and a man with a crown riding on a white horse. And the second seal that he opens up is a red horse, and its rider has a huge sword in his hand to take away peace from the world. And then the third seal that he opens up is that of a black horse and its rider is holding scales. And we'll get into that here shortly. And then finally, the fourth horseman is Death and Hades, the infamous Death and Hades. Well, this horse is an unusually colored horse. A lot of people have interpreted this to be a pale horse, but the Greek word is chloros, meaning green, and I think green is very appropriate for this particular horse. There's no such thing as a green horse in the world, so therefore the green horse really is alien in many ways. And I'm going to show that Death and Hades is not about pandemics, it's not about viruses, it's not about disease. Death and Hades is an alien invasion, a demonic invasion, and it points to the fifth and sixth trumpet judgments of God. But that's why it's a green horse. It's an alien horse. Why are these seals important? Why, there's always been war on earth. Why does God need to know about these things? Well, first of all, the seal judgments, a lot of Bible scholars and students often say that when God opens the seals, that God is causing this to happen, and or at least implies that. And I disagree completely. I think the seals are basically the headlines or the information that God needs in order to execute judgment. Okay? A good commander in the field needs information before he can plan the invasion, right? You need good intel, basically. And these are intelligence reports that God is receiving, Jesus Christ. And so when he opens up these seals, this is information that is pertinent to the coming operations, basically to take over the earth. And so the first seal is opened, and this is just information that he receives. God isn't causing political revolutions in the world. Second seal's open. God isn't causing mankind to wage war against each other. They're just happening, right? But what's the significance of these seals, though? Why does God need to know about this? Well, I think what God is telling us here on these seal judgments is that these are global events. See, the thing I want you to understand is globalism is not necessarily a conspiracy, okay? There are globalists out there who want one world government, and in defiance of God's plan, but globalism, we trade, the whole world trades with each other. We travel to each other. We talk to each other. We have the internet. Everything is global today in a manner that has never been before. And I think with the coronavirus lockdown that we've all experienced, I think you can see the impact of globalism. The whole world is on lockdown, from China to California. And this is the reality we live in. And these seal judgments not so much judgments as they are intel reports. Okay? So when he opens up this seal, he's basically getting an intel report about the global nature of these events. And this is way different. When Napoleon invaded the Austro-Hungarian Empire, did God get a report on that? Not necessarily, because it wasn't a global nature, right? It was a regional war, right? When the Mongols invaded the Middle East and wiped out Baghdad, did God open up a seal to figure this out? No, it wasn't a global event. These were regional events, that pertain to regional areas of the world. It's not until, today, that anything that happens in the world we know about, right? Nobody gets away with anything. If somebody dies, we're going to know about it immediately. Thank you, Internet, right? And so we live in an age of globalism. Things happen globally. And, with the United Nations and with international bodies that are trying to create a one world government in defiance of God, global matters are important. And so when God opens up these seals, these events that he is receiving, this information that he's receiving, are global events, right? So when you have the rider on the white horse, that is a global revolutionary event, apparently, right? And so God sits up for that. And it's not just any invasion of some country in Africa somewhere. No. This is a global event that demands God's attention. Same thing with the second seal, right? Here we have the red horse, and on the red horse he carries a large sword to take away peace from the world. Well, we just had the Magog invasion of the Middle East. No doubt might be nuclear exchange, don't know. But we do have an asteroidal destruction of Magog and her allies, which might as well be nuclear weapons, because it has the same effect. And so, this is a global issue. And in the coming days of the tribulation, coming years of the tribulation, this seal tells us that there's going to be global war, not just merely regional wars. Okay? Same thing with the third seal. The third seal is open, and it's a black horse, and its rider is carrying a pair of scales. Oh, what does that mean? Well, that means the economy crashes. In this case, in the third seal, it says it takes a day's wage to buy a meal. And, think how much money you make in a day. Well, that's how much it's going to cost to buy a Big Mac. Good luck on that, right? So, and so the whole world is impacted by this seal. This is a global event. It's not just hyperinflation in Africa or hyperinflation in Germany. No. This is hyperinflation throughout the entire world. These are global events. And then finally, the fourth seal is open, and you have the pale horse, and on it is death and Hades. And again, I'm going to repeat, this has nothing to do with pandemics. I know a lot of people like to think that, and they'll often say, even with this coronavirus, this must be the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. Well, first and foremost, this is still the church age we're in, so therefore it cannot be the fourth horseman. Plus, we've had I don't know how many times. We've had all kinds of pandemics and diseases run rampant throughout the church age in the past 2,000 years since Revelation was written. Revelation, we didn't know about the fourth horseman of the apocalypse until 96 AD. So what happened after that? Well, you have the plague of Justinian, right, in the 500 to 600s, somewhere in that range. And that was a bubonic plague of sorts that afflicted the world of antiquity as it entered into the early medieval age. And then, of course, you had the infamous Black Plague of Europe in the 1300s, and which was worldwide, by the way. Millions died from that, devastated Europe. And then finally you have the infamous Spanish flu of 1918, which killed millions throughout the world. I think 500,000 Americans died from that. So, but none of those, as bad as they were, none of those are the fourth horseman of the fourth horse of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. And that is not death and Hades as we know it. So, I'm going to show as we go on here who death and Hades really is. And trust me, it's much worse than you might think. And then we have the fifth seal that's open, and this is separate from the four. Remember, we have these interesting patterns here, a 4-3 pattern, and then more importantly, a 4-2-1 pattern. And so the second part of these judgments, the fifth and sixth seals, again, this is information that God is getting, which is a global intel report, if you will. But what's interesting about this next grouping of judgments, it's more of a cause and effect judgment. So one judgment must lead to the next. And so the fifth seal is open, and it says that basically there's going to be a holocaust of the saints. And so if you thought World War II was bad, and the Nazi concentration camps were bad, and then the communist gulag system was bad, well, it only gets worse from here, folks. And we have the Holocaust of the saints, and the fifth seal tells us this is going to happen. God isn't causing this to happen. Just because God is opening up the seal doesn't mean he's causing it. It's just that he's getting information on a global scale. This is a global Holocaust. The Nazi Holocaust, well, that was in the Nazi-occupied areas of Europe. With this Holocaust, however, it is worldwide, and the saints are basically the object of this Holocaust. And so God opens up another seal, the sixth seal, which is in direct relationship to the fifth. And what we see here is that God judges. In this case, God does cause this one. God judges the earth for killing the saints, for murdering the saints. And what you have here on the sixth seal is that God outlines a future operation, what I call Operation Wormwood, in which he punishes the earth with a asteroidal destruction of a monumental scale. And so that's what this sixth seal is. It's just telling us, the viewer, the people that are reading this information, what is to come. This is setting the outline for the tribulation. And then finally we have the seventh seal, which is the silence of God. And this silence of God leads us into the next set of judgments, which are the trumpet judgments.